All right, so we are talking with today. Kellie has done a lot of work to put together a, what would you call it? Freestyle process, idea,
Yeah,
probably more than idea. Yeah,
it, I've been mulling around an idea for a really long time, and I
yeah.
have split up the idea into two separate factors, the comp format and the judging format.
Okay.
So I've been pulling freestyle competitions apart in two
Yeah,
different ways. I want to do a different comp format
yeah,
for freestyle. And then alongside that, I want to change the judging format a little bit so that it feels more fair. It feels
yeah.
less subjective and it feels more communicative, more, what is the word, transparent.
Transparent. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, well, I kind of was prepared to talk about the judging format, but I kind of want to hear what you're thinking about a new type of comp. I think we maybe talked about it a little bit at EKC, but maybe we can start with that.
Sure. So the comp format now, if we want to start like just talking about what happens in the comp formats now. And what I find is that it's a long day. So if you have like a qualifier round with 160 people, it's a long day. And
Yeah,
then the finals are always this like short burst of energy. It's like an hour or two of like intense energy, and it always feels a little bit off balance because by the end of the day everyone's tired, and so
yeah,
either you get this like full amount of energy or this like really dead weight.
yeah,
And as I was talking to Tio, he was like, there is no there is no just watching a freestyle performance. There is only active participation, right?
right.
The person on stage needs the audience's energy, and the audience needs the person on stage to like react with them.
Yeah,
So the format just feels really long and drawn out in a way that it's not conducive to that type of energy.
yeah,
Um I also don't love the single versus double elimination.
yeah,
It's either too short or too long.
yeah,
So when I was trying to think about like how do I put together a different type of game, basically,
yeah,
I thought about gymnastics or
yeah,
skateboarding, or
yeah,
I know somebody who does ninja warrior training,
yeah, yeah.
and all of these games have different games that you put into one that creates a competition or event.
Okay.
Right? So it takes a bunch of different aspects of what it means to be an athlete in
Yeah,
that sport, and it pushes you to focus on those aspects and then like be a comprehensive player,
okay.
right? Like you have to be a full well-rounded player in order to do well.
Yeah, okay.
And I loved that idea. I wanted to
Yeah,
play on that idea of like, how do I create different types of dynamics to show
yeah,
off different things? Uh,
yeah. Can you
do you
start
have
with an
thoughts?
example? Can you give an example of what that would look like in gymnastics or skateboarding?
Yeah. So forgive me for not knowing skateboarding or gymnastic terms very well. I'm just gonna
That's
like
okay.
broadly.
I don't either, so
So
it's fine.
in skateboarding, they have the big bowl, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
and then they also have the runs, right, where they have all of the
yeah,
obstacles out. And then
yeah.
they also have this
Loop de
thing,
loop, a half
um,
pipe.
the half pipe, right? And so they are all individual events, but they
Yeah.
all combine to make a skateboarding event, right? In
Right, right, right.
gymnastics, there's the floor, there's the uneven bars, there's a pommel horse, there's
Yeah, yeah,
even in figure skating, right? Like there's different aspects of figure skating that you participate in. And so those those ideas of like, oh, in Ninja Warrior, there's like a speed run and then an obstacle course and then like a finals
mm,
course, right?
mm,
And so I I thought about taking different aspects of a bunch of different types of comps and kind of smashing them together.
Okay.
So, um, also, I am saying this out loud for the first time, like to
Yeah.
public. I am trying to do for Malama Dama. So,
Yeah.
like, all grain of salt, but also like this is what I want to do for our comp.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, so the first round would be really similar to NACO 2022, the online version,
Okay.
right? It's not a freestyle run, it's a freestyle performance.
Right.
And anybody can submit. Like
Okay.
you have a timeline, and if you want to be in the competitive division, no matter what your skill level is, right? If you're
Yeah.
a beginner and you want to compete, if you're a pro and you want to compete, if you can submit your video. It's like a minute and it's your best freestyle performance to whatever music or to whatever you want in the
Yeah.
background.
Right.
Um and there'll be like stipulations on like what uh how to submit,
Yeah.
but the idea is we'll have three judges go through all of the performances and pick the top 32, top
Yeah.
16, and those will be the people invited to round two on stage at Malamadama.
Okay. Got you.
So so it's a virtual qualifying round.
Yeah, that makes
And
sense.
then round two would be like a freestyle performance. Every
Oh.
qualifier gets 2 rounds of 1 minute or 45 seconds to do the best that they can, and they'll
Yeah.
be scored. They'll have a score. The top 8 of the highest scores will move to round three, the finals, which is the second day.
Yeah.
And then that'll be a battle with the top 8.
Okay. Wait, so at the end, so at the very end, you said that they would, if they get picked from the video, if there's
Mm-hmm.
30 people or 16 people that get picked, then it's a tournament style, or then you do another qualifying round.
We'll do another qualifying round. So
I see. I see.
it'll be like the mass general public, and
Yeah.
then the top 16 or top 32, and
Yeah.
then we'll do a qualifying round like EKC,
Yeah.
and then the top 8 or whatever will go to the finals.
So for the video, are you going to pick just general winners and then they would get something, or are these people who are going to be going to the event?
These they would be invited to the event. So
Yeah.
if they
Okay.
didn't make it, like if they couldn't make it, we would take the next person down.
Right, 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 right.
But
Okay.
the top 16 would be invited to be on stage.
Got you. Okay. And then that's going to be like a way quicker qualifier than what we're used to. It would always be like Group E of EKC, which it was just like the best players and most of them went. So that'd be exciting. And then you would do a tournament after that. Okay. You mentioned other comp formats. Is that what you mean, or do you mean also at Malama Dalma to do some different types of competitions?
I wanted, if we're able to do this format for freestyle, which is the
Yeah.
main event,
Yeah.
then it'll hopefully significantly reduce the amount of time that we need in order to run the event.
Got you.
Um, and so I do want to have other if like competitions that aren't the main thing but are part of it.
Yeah.
So the other idea is to do a team comp.
Okay.
So I want to run a team comp Friday and then finals Saturday. I
Okay.
also have different divisions. So we'll have a fem only division,
Yeah.
a non competitive division, and a competitive division, all doing
Okay.
freestyle. And then I want to run um, like a, I was talking to Jacob Schultz and I think he called it a random speed ladder. So I want to
Okay.
run a speed ladder game. But the premise is like you have 30 different tricks that you can like randomly pull from. So it's 30 tricks, you pull 10 tricks, and then people have to do those 10 tricks as a speed ladder.
Okay. Got you.
So it's not traditional. So it's like a little bit KWC, a little bit
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. Do you see those 30? Can you prepare for those 30, or those 30 you don't see until you get to the event?
You could prepare for them. So I
Yeah. Oh, I
would,
see.
yeah.
Yeah. And then,
And they
okay.
could be a range of tricks. So I this is a little bit off topic, but I imagined that the tricks would be laminated paper
Yeah.
and each trick level would be a different color. So depending on what level we're in right now, say
Yeah.
we're in the first round and there's 10 players and each player picks 3 tricks,
Yeah.
you can say, I'm going to spam the hard tricks. I'm going to pick 3 hard tricks, and
Right.
I know I can hit them and my competitors can't. Or
Yeah.
I'm going to hit 3 easy tricks because I know those are the things I can hit. I'll get through them faster. And so there's a little bit of strategy in how you pick from the random trick list,
Yeah.
right? So that you could have like a big cup bird next to a juggle spike, right? Like
Yeah.
you'll have different levels, and then depending on what level you move up to in the next round, the tricks will just get significantly harder.
So what would be the incentive of picking hard tricks if it's a speed ladder and you pick easy ones, then you would finish among your
You
competitors
might finish
fast?
first, but if you know you can hit the hard tricks and
Yeah.
you're fast, right? If other people pick easy ones, you'll be able to get through those fast, but they'll get stuck on the hard ones, right?
So
You'll
you're
be
picking
able to get
tricks
through. Yeah, so
for
like say
everybody.
you're picking tricks for everybody, or like
Oh.
if there's a group, right? Like one person picks 3, one person picks 3, one person picks 4.
Yeah.
Um so it kind of randomizes it more, but also includes a little bit of strategy.
So,
So in
okay,
the
I really
same
like that.
okay.
So you would pick it wouldn't be well it wouldn't be random 10 you out of the 30 you would pick the ones that you think you could do best that your opponents couldn't do.
Right, but if okay, so if you imagine that the trick, right, is printed on one side and the
Yeah.
other side is blank, right?
Yeah.
But the you can see that it's a green trick,
Yeah.
right? You can see it's a green or a yellow or a red trick.
Yeah.
So you don't know what the trick is you're picking, but you know what difficulty it is you're picking.
Okay.
So you can, if you want, pick only easy tricks and you
Yeah, I
might get
see.
through it faster, but other people might get through it faster too.
Yeah, okay.
So if you pick a medium trick that you can get through and other people can't, you may win,
Okay.
right?
I got you.
And so it's still a little fuzzy. Like all of the
Yeah.
details aren't worked out, but that's kind of the general idea.
Yeah.
So because the event that we have is 4 days technically,
Yeah.
um, we have time to spread out different games without making the day 12 hours long.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Got you.
Um, and so that's one of the things that I'm trying really hard to do because you're in Hawaii, right? You want to
Yeah.
do other stuff. Like you want
Yeah.
to go to dinner, you want to go to the beach, you want to like see things.
Yeah.
So that's I want people to come to the event to have a good time, but also remember that there's like a world beyond just the event.
Yeah.
And that you can take your friends to the beach and play kendama. Like
Yeah, for
you don't
sure.
have to stay at the building the whole time
Okay.
because we're only going to be open from like 10 to 6.
Yeah, I see. I see. Okay.
Right. So there's there's a little bit of strategy on why the timing is the way that it is because I do want it to be also a vacation. I
Yeah.
do want it to be also like it's a long way for people to come. So
Yeah.
I want other people to have a good time and say they went to Hawaii and
Yeah.
not just they said they went to a kendama event.
Right, right, right. When is this event?
February 28th to March 3rd,
Okay.
2025.
Awesome. Okay. Sounds good. Okay, that's really cool. And then are you planning to do an open division as well?
No,
Okay.
just the freestyle and the other games.
Yeah, okay. So speed ladder and then maybe anything else that you're thinking about.
Yeah. Yeah,
Got you.
and the team event.
And the team event, that's right. That's right. Got you. Okay, cool. So why don't we look at the freestyle? Uh, you were mentioning a new comp format, and that's you were referring to what you just talked about, which was online qualifiers and then in-person qualifiers, then 1v1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Got
Yeah.
you. Okay. Sweet. Yeah, I like that.
As Can I ask you some questions?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So as a player, right? As a
yeah.
player who would want to be in a comp, if you think about your energy levels and your excitement, like what is the thing that makes you excited about freestyle?
Yeah, definitely showing the tricks that I can do and hopefully landing them and then hopefully making the crowd hype and then hopefully I think most important is probably moving on to the next round or
Hmm.
winning. I think that's probably makes me the most excited.
What, as a player, what are you missing in order to know what you need to do to move on? Like how do you know what you need to show up with in order to move on to the next round?
Yeah, I mean, so far there's a lot of better players that or players that have been more successful in freestyle comps. I've won a few small ones, or I've placed in a few small ones, but in the major ones, I haven't done anything that was worth me moving on. So I don't think I personally was like missing, uh, a transparency into what I did wrong because I kind of messed up my own run. So I
Hmm.
was like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Um, I mean, there's so many things. I think there's like literally everything. Because I think if I were to speak for somebody else, but even me personally, even if I didn't do well, I don't get any feedback besides flags going up, right?
Hmm.
So I'm missing um, what they thought about my run. Yeah, why I was not picked or why I was picked, and then also like how to improve for the next round or the next comp. What do I need to do to be better, or to move on?
Yeah. If you were to get either feedback before or after the run, what types of feedback work best for you? Is it like, hey, you should try to do this better, or is it like, um, here's a number for you that's either low or high, and that'll tell you how to respond?
Definitely numbers.
Numbers.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think numbers for sure. Yeah, but I guess but with numbers, it would probably let me know what I need to do better, but it will also tell me what I did do well, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
I just I keep thinking about ways to collect feedback
Yeah.
or to because I've gotten feedback before where people will say, I don't want to hear what the judges want ahead of time because that'll
Mm,
that'll make my run look a certain way when I may not want it to do that.
right,
Like
right, right,
I
right.
don't like it'll guide me in a direction that may not be purely me. And then in the other cases, it's like, well, I don't know how to show up if I don't know what people are looking for in the
Mm,
beginning, right? And so there's two different angles, and I'm not sure how to like balance those,
yeah,
or if it's my problem at all. It
yeah. It's a good question. I mean, on one end, I would think for the people who want to know what to do to, to make the judges happy, right? Which is kind of like that second scenario. I think I align more with that one because I'm already not going to play. I guess I see the argument of like wanting to do some pure freestyle, but like I can find my pure freestyle in a rough or general format. Yasu is playing just like himself. He's like the most personable player up there, but he's also winning. I guess it is a good example that when you didn't know what to do right now for EKC, you don't exactly know that there's not like specific things that judges ask for, but he plays in a way that's true to himself, and then he ends up winning. But yeah, I think that I can see the first scenario, the players being concerned that if the things are too specific, then it would take away from them just going up and flowing, which I can for sure see that. But I mean, just looking at, not to like put the cart before the horse, but just looking at what you have showed me, and what I'm sure we'll get into, it doesn't seem that specific. It's more just ways to uh, yeah, evaluate how your performance as it was a expression of yourself, and as it was a uh, you just going up and freestyling. But
Yeah.
yeah, I can definitely see both scenarios.
I I like what you said about how Yasu goes up and is himself.
Yeah,
And I have heard feedback on Yasu's performances that they can sometimes be repetitive,
yeah,
or that the tricks are sometimes the same.
yeah.
And I think that, like, in art, sorry, this is like a metaphor. So in art, when we're trying to go for a show, like if I'm trying to enter in a piece for a show, they give me a prompt and then they
Okay.
give me stipulations like your piece can't be bigger than this size. It
Yeah,
has to be framed. It has to meet these certain requirements. If the prompt is blue, it needs to be blue,
right.
right? And it doesn't say what I have to draw. I could make an octopus or a bird or an abstract thing. It just needs to be blue.
Yeah,
So I'm not I'm hindered slightly by the fact that I can only use this one color, but I have multiple shades of that
yeah,
color that I can use. I
yeah,
have multiple ways of approaching what I want to make. And
yeah.
so the riverbanks kind of make me have to be more creative
Right.
because I'm stuck in this like river. I don't know how to say that
Yeah,
different. So I think that if we were to give, because you have 45 seconds, that's already like a thing that is boxing you in, right? You only
yeah,
have 45 seconds.
right.
If you have 45 seconds to show me the best way you can flow,
Yeah,
right? Then that's not me telling you how to flow. That's me
yeah,
telling you what I'm looking for, and then you showing up and telling me what that looks like for you.
yeah, for sure.
And I think that
Yeah,
a lot of like old school thinking is if you put a restriction on it, it's going to kill the creativity.
yeah,
And there's a way to do that. There's a way to put boundaries that pushes people to be more creative than if they were to have all of the possibilities in front of them,
for sure, for
right?
sure.
So, like, I believe that if we were to not ding points, but score Yasu less in something like uniqueness or creativity,
Mm,
that if he wanted to do better, he would be a better kendama player
yeah,
because he would push to um, be more creative because
yeah,
he has this idea that he knows he needs to in order to win.
mm,
And so back, you were talking with Nick and Zach
mm,
about how you really liked the entertainment factor.
mm,
That you thought that the audience participation or the audience hype was a factor in the scoring.
yeah,
And I love that. I love that because if we want Kendama to grow, we need more people to watch.
yeah,
And in order for more people to watch, it's got to be entertaining.
yeah,
And it's got to be entertaining in a way that the normal person can understand what's happening,
yeah,
right? So if you don't know why Yasu didn't win EKC against Takuya, you're missing a piece of information that makes it exciting.
yeah,
Like you're missing the buy-in of why you want to watch the show anyway,
yeah,
right? And so if we were to make a scoring system that the public can understand,
yeah,
then they can root for who they want to root for while understanding what they're actually looking at,
yeah,
as opposed to just a flag system where they're like, well, it's always a crapshoot because we
yeah,
never know what the judges are going to do and we
yeah.
don't know why.
Yeah, I feel like, just to separate these two things, one thing that can be implemented that I think you're bringing up is a theme that players kind of have to, if they want to succeed, they have to kind of go by or think about or implement that theme into their run in order to succeed. And then the separate one is publicizing judges' scoring system or giving a judge a scoring system. Does that sound right? That there's kind of two different things?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
The first part about giving people, not, it doesn't have to be a theme, but
Yeah.
the idea is if we can take a scoring system and a judging format and give it to a bunch of different events, right? So there's a
Mm,
lot of different events using the same system. That theme can change per event so that the event doesn't lose its own flavor,
mm,
right? So like your event could have like a specific something that's different from Salt Laced City,
right.
right? Because you have two different flavors of events. Like your
Yeah.
personality and Josh and Nate's personality are different.
Yeah.
And it's awesome if we get to show that off.
Yeah.
So like and it doesn't have to be goofy. Like you don't have to wear a Viking helmet and a
Yeah.
beard, right? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be goofy, but it could be something just small enough that like add in this type of flair or
Yeah.
add in this type of trick for an extra point, for an
Yeah.
extra something, right? And then that gives every event its uniqueness,
Yeah.
but still keeping it structurally the same
Yeah.
so that things like rankings and things like a scoreboard
Yeah.
could theoretically be plausible
Yeah.
without having to say, oh, this event is worth this many points and this event is worth this many points because they do these things differently.
Mm,
um, we would be able to create a league of or a structure
yeah.
with pops of uniqueness.
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so
So,
that is a factor.
okay. So, I mean, it could be like, just to put an example out there, for one freestyle event, it might be we're going to value airplane, or not airplanes, but ins. So like if you juggle, instead of juggling a spike, if you juggle and you toss in like Tama grip, and that we're going to value that higher. But then another event just might be like, hey, we're just going to value like creativity or something super general like that. Maybe we're going to value consistency. Is that a
Mm-hmm.
good example?
A little, yeah,
Yeah.
because who your judges are gonna factor into like what is important. So,
Yeah.
say for example, Franta, right? If
Yeah.
Franta was a judge for
Yeah.
flow,
Yeah.
Franta would be looking for something different than like a Kenyatta at CKC,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And so they're you're gonna get that flavor from each judge because there are gonna be different styles of players.
Right.
And because they're looking now specifically for just one category. Sorry, this is like a little bit. So I want judges to each have one category to look at
Okay. Okay.
as opposed to looking at the whole run overall. The idea is to have each judge look at one category. And so
Yeah.
if Franta were, for example, to look at flow, Franta could say out loud, this is what I'm looking for in a
Yeah.
flow run,
Yeah.
right? Here's some different points that I specifically am looking for. And it doesn't have to relate to anybody else who ever judges flow,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
But the points, how you distribute the points is gonna matter. So
Yeah.
a four is a four, but depending on who gives you the four, it
Mm,
there you did a really good example. Hold on, let me go backwards. So if we were thinking about resets,
right.
right? In between a trick, do you reset your Dama or do you flow into the next trick?
Right.
That could be something that's really important to one judge. And they will
Yeah.
score you really highly if you're very good at flowing into tricks. But if you reset every time, you may not score highly with that judge.
Right. Okay. So you're not
And that could be different.
okay. So like what you're bringing to the table isn't necessarily an event-wide theme for players to go after, but you're just saying that if we can publicize judges value, because they all kind of have it, but just kind of make it public
Mm-hmm.
or maybe guide them a little bit, then it's going to basically benefit in a lot of ways, which I can imagine it would. Not only
Yeah.
it would benefit like visibility for the players of why they won or why they lost, but it would also maybe increase the entertainment value.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And um I'm hoping that this style will also allow us to train judges
Mm,
so that more people can judge,
yeah.
meaning that there's more opinions, more views, more eyes that are all different,
Yeah.
because it's not subjective,
Right.
right? It's not just like who do you like better, and it's not always just do you know the hardest trick,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
There's one judge who has to be really good at knowing the hardest trick,
Yeah.
but the rest of the judges need to be good at their own thing. So
Yeah.
it, you could have a judge who's not the most proficient player, but a very good eye at seeing something,
Mm,
and they're still allowed to be a good judge. Does that make
yeah.
sense?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Because I think that uh, people, one, don't want to be judges. Like I have heard
Mm,
that a lot. Like people don't want to judge because it's too hard.
mm,
And then two is the judgment that judges get on whether or not they're smart enough or knowledgeable enough
yeah.
to be a judge is something that the public is really mean about sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I think if we're able to train people or like have a system where you can learn how to judge fairly,
Yeah.
it'll open up a whole slew of different folks who could be a judge.
Yeah. Okay. On the other side of that, you still would need players that, for example, would be good at looking for things, but also would know that this certain trick is more difficult than another trick, like swapping in versus juggling in, or know how novel this trick is versus how often it's been used, right? You'd still
Right.
need something like
Yes.
that. Yeah, okay.
You would still have to have knowledge, but
Yeah,
you wouldn't
yeah.
have to have broad knowledge,
Yeah,
right?
okay.
You wouldn't have to know everything about kendama. You would have to be really good at your lane
Yeah,
in
okay.
kendama.
Okay. And then for this format that you're offering, I guess, would like if Franta was a judge, would he be judging only freestyle, like catch and flow style, or would he be also adding points to difficulty and to variety and overall?
um this might be a really good place for visuals.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so I'm gonna pull up some of this stuff. This one. Okay, so you can see the screen, yeah?
Yeah. No, no, sorry.
Okay.
Wait, let me go back. Yeah, I can see
Okay.
it now. I just have you. Yeah.
Okay. So the idea is that each judge, there would be five judges. The virtual caveat, virtually, I think the first qualifying round will only have three judges because
Yeah.
it's going to be hard to do something like engagement
Yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah.
on a video. So for the in-person judging, I want to have five judges. Each judge would have their own lane to stay in, their own category. So
Okay.
if Franta had flow, Franta would only score the flow score.
Right.
So not put points into execution and not put points into creativity. It's just flow.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that he can't think about how the execution is in the flow or whether or not the flow is creative,
Right.
but how he scores the points are going to just stay in the flow category.
Okay.
um, and in each of these categories I've created some criteria, like specific criteria that each judge is looking for, and that's the thing they're going to score on.
Right.
So how this is kind of laid out is just a bracket,
Yeah.
like a mind map. It's like a mind map of what it actually looks like. The score sheet, hold on, let me see if I can find the score sheet. In case it's helpful, we can also edit all of this
You
out.
know, it's okay.
Okay, this one. Okay. So this score sheet is basically the same uh, mind map as the first one, but it's the actual like scorecard of each player's round. Um, so under technical skill, theoretically, there's 5 categories or 5 criteria in that category that could each get a point 1 to 5.
Hmm.
Um, and so if you, for example, were the technical skill judge and Franta was the flow judge, you would be looking for difficulty of the run, number of spikes attempted, number of spikes landed, whether or not there was a buzzer beater, and what your overall impression was. Those
Hmm.
are the only things that you get to score on. You
Right.
can have feelings. You can have feelings about everything else, but you only get to score on those things.
Right. Right. Right.
Um, Franta would be looking for consistent rhythm in the run, whether or not they flow to spike, whether or not they
Hmm.
flowed through their transition, what their timing and execution of the run was like, and whether or not it was memorable.
Okay.
So it's totally different. Franta would be looking at something very, very different than you.
Yeah. Right.
Um, but the scoring is gonna look the same, 1 to 5.
Yeah.
Um, and so we'll do that with all 5 judges. All 5 judges have their own criteria in their category that they score on. And then we take all of those totals and we create a total score.
Hmm.
So the run itself will have 5 scores added together.
Yeah.
Um, do you have thoughts or questions?
No, I think this is really cool. Yeah, it just seems like if I did my freestyle run and I got this score sheet, it would give me, um, it would really, really help me improve, you know?
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
imagine. I feel like every run that I've seen, I can definitely, yeah, it would be kind of interesting to like look at some past runs from Catch and Flow and judge it with this and see if this lines up with the judge's decision, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that is actually the next test. So I have a group of 5 that
Okay.
guinea pig judges that
Yeah.
we're gonna get together and do tests on an old freestyle comp and
Nice.
score it and see what
Okay.
happens.
Okay, cool.
Um, and then just so that you can see what it looks like how each of the scores break down, because I think that's important. Like what does 1 through 5 mean?
Right, 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 right.
I think figuring out how to do that is going to be a big question for folks. And that's this one. Okay, so it's not yo-yo, right?
Right.
Yo-yo has like a clicker where every time you do something you click. I
Mm,
am um I'm trying to figure out a separate point system based on what Caleb Jeffries does,
yeah,
where he does tally marks very similar to clickers.
yeah,
Um, and I have an idea for that, but I want to test run it after this one.
right.
Um, so for this point system, it's kind of like if you were getting grades in school, but numbers,
Yeah.
right? So it's outstanding, exceeds expectations, meets expectations below, and then needs improvement.
Got you. Okay, nice.
And so when somebody says that you got a 3 in your technical skills, that doesn't mean you did bad. That
Yeah,
means you did exactly what they thought you were capable of doing.
right.
Like and you did great, right? Like it says
Yeah,
3, but really you did your what you think you came to do.
yeah, yeah,
If
yeah.
you did more than that, you would get a 4. If you did spectacular, you would get a 5,
Okay.
right? So it's not did you get all of your spikes?
Mm,
Is did you meet the expectations of what the judge thought you should have hit?
I have a question about that. So, considering
Yeah.
expectations, let's say there's a beginner player versus an advanced player. Um, wouldn't it be the same score if they both got a if they both met their expectations? When in reality, the advanced player probably did harder tricks. Just to look at the technical example.
Sure. Yeah. So if you were to put, say, me against a Gallagher,
Hmm.
right? And I hit every trick I went for, but
Yeah.
all of my tricks were like Big Cut Bird.
Yeah.
Right? I hit all of my tricks. I still don't think I would score well in the technical field or in the technical category because my tricks weren't hard.
Right.
I don't have the skill to transition between tricks. So I don't
Hmm.
think my flow would be very high,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
So I could, right? I wanted to leave room for anybody who felt like they were a competitor to show up, right? Like if you
Yeah.
wanted to be Rocky at the stairs,
Yeah.
bring it. I'm
Yeah.
ready, right? But that also means that you may not score well against someone else, and
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Like it's not um like and if Nick were to go and miss everything, right?
Yeah.
Nick missed every spike, but everything besides the spikes were stellar. He
Yeah.
would still win.
Yeah. Okay. I
Um
think the expectation is kind of throwing me off because I would think that,
sure.
like if you're really pumped about a trick that you hit on stage, and I know that was way above your expectation, then I would give you a five. But then if Nick hit a triple stilt flip, which may have been better than, yeah, let's say your bird in that you're really stoked about, I would give him a three, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but the other points, right?
Yeah.
The other areas are going to even that out.
Okay. Okay.
Or at least I hope. And
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
sort of what the testing is going to show us is like, do we need to weight points in certain areas so that they are worth more?
Okay.
Or is it fair to keep them all at the same level?
Yeah, I guess the
Uh,
question is are the judges looking at you individually, or are they looking like when they give Nick a score versus a beginner score, are they going to be comparing them? So, yeah, like,
they should not. They
mm,
should not be comparing them, right? Like, first of all, in the first round, it's qualifiers. So you're not
right, this
even
is,
battling
yeah,
against another person, right? But
yeah,
even if you were battling against another person, it's one run in its entirety, right?
yeah,
Is the score. You're not actually looking at who are you beating. It's is your score good enough?
right, 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 right.
Um,
I can see that for qualifying for sure, but I imagine it would be difficult to give give players a score if they're battling against each other and then not comparing it to the person that they're battling, like not comparing those two runs.
if hmm uh are you familiar with golf?
Yeah,
Yeah. So like when you do a match play in golf,
yeah,
right? You're both playing the same hole.
mm,
Say you're both playing the par 3. You
right,
both want to make par. What your opponent does doesn't matter.
yeah,
They either birdie or they bogey or they throw it in the water. It doesn't matter. You
yeah,
still have to make par, right? You still have to shoot the score that you can in order to try to win. It doesn't matter what the other person does.
yeah, okay,
Um, and that's how I think about the battles is if you go up and I also like was going back and forth on whether or not it should be a battle
yeah,
because if you know what your score is, say first qualifying round you scored, let's just use 100 because I don't know how to do math.
yeah, okay,
You scored an 80, right?
yeah,
And then the next person below you scored a 75. And we're going to add those your first round and second round together, and whoever has the highest total wins, right? if the person who had a 75 had a 90 in their next run,
Yeah.
right? Then you know you have to do better
Yeah.
by at least 10 points in order to win. And
Right.
so there's a similar mind game that I see in golf where it's like you have to beat the score. You don't have to beat the person. Like you have to beat your best or you know what you have to do to win.
Yeah.
Um and I think that's really fun.
Yeah.
So like can you imagine if like Yasu and Takuya go up, they're the last two players, and Takuya has to hit a like 95 or higher in order to win KWC style, right?
Right.
Like you have to hit this number to win, and it's like down to the wire. We're like calculating the scores, everybody's waiting, and like you have to know what the number is,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
like
for sure.
that's the feeling that I think is really really exciting.
Yeah.
So I'm debating on even whether like a battle is a good idea
Yeah.
because like if you're just trying to beat scores and not another person, I think you do better.
Yeah, definitely. Um, I guess I understand what you're saying, and I think I agree with you based on what you're saying, but I'm looking at like the scoring criteria, and if I was just an objective judge, um, I don't know where it would where in the criteria would it show that if Nick missed all of his run but hit a triple stilt flip to at the end versus when he if he was playing a beginner who hit everything above the judge's expectation. I guess maybe that's a bad example because maybe in that case the player should win. I remember there's an example of I think it was Zach versus a newer player in NAKO 2019. But yeah, maybe the other player deserved to win. But yeah, I guess just like this example of like, okay, well, what Nick did uh, was much more difficult. Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think what I'm trying to illustrate, I'm attempting to, is a bigger discussion of like how do we compare or maybe not compare a bad player or not a bad player, but a beginner player that hits everything versus a experienced player that doesn't hit his standard, but what he yeah his but whatever he did hit that run, even if it wasn't the standard, it still was objectively better than the inexperienced run, the inexperienced
Right.
players run.
Totally. This is not the same because it's open, but the Adrian, right, who won
Yeah,
open
yeah,
at EKC was not one of the front contenders
right,
going in.
yeah,
And that was amazing.
yeah,
Like it, I think to say a beginner player winning a freestyle comp is probably unlikely,
right,
right? Like the things that they would have to do in order to win and beat someone like a Takuya or a Yasu or a Nick or a Zach, right? Like they would have to be spectacular. And if they were spectacular, then they deserve to win. And I don't think a beginner player is going to do that.
yeah.
Um, and
But
so
here,
I
maybe
think,
this is a good example. If a beginner player came up and um, a judge, if I was a judge, I had an expectation of this beginner player, and this beginner player hit a banger, which for them would be bird in. Um, and it, for me, I'm like, wow, I know that player. Like that definitely exceeds expectations. That's a four. But then Nick
mhm.
goes up, and I have high expectations for Nick. But he misses his whole run, but only hits a bird over the valley in. Well, that's a one for me because maybe not a one, right? But maybe a
Oh,
two because that is below expectations. But technically, that trick that he hit was better than just the bird.
I see, I see. Maybe a good reframe for my doc is to take out the word expectation
Maybe.
because I think that what you're saying is right in that like what a person believes a player is capable of versus objectively what they hit is
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I see that. I can definitely see that. So maybe instead, okay, if you help me brainstorm this then,
Yeah. Yeah.
instead of expectation, like what could it be? Because if a beginner player does hit that big cut bird, right, you
Yeah.
still want to give them something.
Yeah.
It's not they hit the trick. It's not the best trick. It's not the fanciest one. They're not going to win. I'm going to say that 1,000 times.
Yeah.
They're not going to win. Like
Yeah.
people are so afraid of that. I don't think it's going to happen.
Right.
And like what do we call that?
Right. 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 Yeah. And it's just funny because whenever I'm doing something new or whenever anyone's doing anything new, but also when I want to do do something like maybe an event or maybe a new type of format, it's just so much harder to come up with these things, and it's so much easier to like criticize it and like find improvement, you know? So uh,
I have
yeah, I'm in
found
that
that
position
so
now, and I feel
much.
you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um,
Everybody everybody has
so
an
I'm happy to
opinion and I'm
brainstorm.
like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I'm really happy to brainstorm with you and to help create because that's a lot harder to do. Um, but I think it kind of stems back to okay, well, if we need to find this word to replace expectation, I'm thinking that, and then we take that example of Nick only has a disappointing run and only hits a bird over the valley, and then the beginner has an awesome run for them and hits bird in. It would be hard to for a judge to score that accordingly, which Nick should win there, but do that without comparing the two runs. You know, that's where I think I have a lot of trouble. Um, if like I understand, I really I understand like the golf analogy, and it would be great to understand the benefits of not comparing. And I again, I'm only talking about 1v1s. I'm not talking about qualifying because yes, qualifying you should you shouldn't really compare. Um, but yeah, I think for 1v1s, and you know, another thing about qualifying, there needs to be kind of a baseline. And I'm not even just, and here, you know, like what I'm talking about isn't just for this specific format, but also I've always had this issue in my head with every judging of a freestyle, whether it's skateboarding, like Shaun White. Like I remember when I was like 12 years old and watching, this is kind of like I'm rambling, but Shaun White like goes up and he goes first and then the score gives them like a 99 because they hadn't seen anything like that before. But then like what do you
Oh,
do after the next
after a 99, yeah.
after 99? But like you know what I mean? And that's where I think yeah, again, like it would have to take a lot of work and I'm super down to brainstorm this. And I don't think it needs to be changed because I think what you're like 99% there, but I just wonder what it would look like to have some kind of like standard or something. Um,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Okay. So my original idea, so because we have divisions,
yeah,
one of my original ideas was for the casual competitive division. I wanted whoever was going to be the judge for that division to
yeah,
do a mock run, to
yeah,
be like,
yeah.
this is not top. This is not what's going to win you. This is a medium,
That's a really good
really
idea.
good base level of what me as a judge I'm looking for.
Right.
Here's 45 seconds. Don't copy me, but this is the level of performance I'm looking for. Right? So the judge says, here is what I am capable of. I can
Yeah,
show you I can do this. And here's what I'm looking for if I were to be a judge,
yeah,
right? And when I said that to people, they didn't like it because they were like, "Well, they're just going to copy the judge and then play to the judges,
yeah,
something or other." And I'm like, "It doesn't matter. There's five judges. Like, if you get one
yeah,
judge, it's not going to sway you."
yeah,
Um, that's like how statistics work, I think, but
yeah,
don't quote me. I was really bad at math.
yeah.
Um, but like that was an idea I had, was like, show us what baseline is
Right,
to you,
Yeah.
And then people can either show up and do the same and get threes, or
Yeah.
do more and get
Yeah.
fives.
Yeah.
Um,
That's definitely a really
I
interesting route. I really like that potential. I think that has potential, because it does solve the issue of like comparing to if we're not comparing to the competitor.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so if there were the other the other thought I had for the second round was you like a hybrid freestyle KWC comp
Yeah.
where you have to call out three tricks ahead of time that
Mm.
you are going to try to hit in your run. And you have to flow into them. You can't just hit them,
Yeah.
right? Like you're being scored as if it were a freestyle, but you have to hit these three tricks that you specifically called out ahead of time.
Yeah.
And those three tricks will dictate how like high level your run was. So the higher
Mm.
the tricks on the like KWC list or whatever, like the
Yeah.
harder your trick is, the more points you get in that area. And so we
Mm.
could do something like, hey, for this qualifying round, you have to have at least a 7 or above. Like you
Yeah.
have to have in your trick list at least a 7 or above.
Right.
And then that'll also take out the people who can only big cut bird.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
But
definitely.
people didn't like that because then they felt like that wasn't a true freestyle. So then
Mm.
I could take, okay, we could do the virtual qualifying first, this KWC hybrid style run next, which is
Mm.
basically like a figure skating performance, where they
Yeah.
have to tell you what their run is going to look like ahead of time, and then a true freestyle run where you just do whatever you want.
Right. 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 Yeah, that'd be really cool. I
Yeah.
think that would get the most out of the competitor and the audience, and out of like you as like a person who's doing a judging system, because
Yeah.
yeah, to do like in the freestyles, like based on the level or the round that you're at, to do a slightly different format, which will, I guess, make it better for the judges and then better for the competitors in terms of visibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then
Yeah,
I also wanted to like, you don't have to hit the trick, right? You
yeah,
don't spend 45 seconds trying to hit one trick.
right,
But if you have to try for it.
yeah, okay,
Like if you hit it, you that's amazing. If you miss it, that's fine, but it has to be in the run.
yeah,
And you can try it as many times as you want. It's not a rehearsed or uh staged,
yeah,
choreographed. It's not choreographed, right?
right,
So you're still freestyling. You're just figuring out when to throw this trick in.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And it's just one. It could be just one real quick trick.
Yeah. Yeah. But that I think doing that will also like hit a certain skill level. Oh,
Yeah.
hi Seth.
Hi,
Are you
Seth.
leaving? Okay. Seth is going to the dentist.
Nice, fun, good day.
Yeah. Um
So,
uh okay.
um, so I understand. So I want to do kind of like I want to throw something at you, and
Hmm.
also think about how it would look. But for 1v1s, let's say, can you go back to the judging, uh not the criteria, but the judging scorecard?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Let me see. Point scoring. This thing.
So I think for so like just to like, yeah, to maybe we can compare it to catch and flow, which is right now for catch and flow. Um, you have five judges. They each have a different category. I think it's this. No, it's similar to this one, right? What's the difference in catch and
It's
flow?
similar. I
Yeah,
don't know exactly, but it is similar.
they don't have engagement, but they have. I think there's one person for overall, one for creativity, one for flow, one for difficulty, one for variability. I think that's
Uh,
5. Yeah, or maybe one for consistency too. But what they do is they'll like the creativity judge will raise the flag when raise the flag for a player who was more creative compared to the other person. Um, and obviously, I think I like that more in general compared to the three judge system at EKC because that's given more visibility. But then this
mhm.
thing that you made gives like 10 times the amount of visibility because you can get a range and a score, and then you can also look at like what specific things the judges saw and what you did. Um, but what would you think about this exact document with the same categories, but instead of there being arranged, it would be you pick the player. So you are comparing, but you pick the player that let's say you're the flow judge and you see flow to spike, and you pick the player that did more spikes from their flow, or you're the creativity judge, and then you pick the player who had more novel or new tricks, and then I can kind of see one downside, which is that there isn't a score, so it's less visibility, but it may solve that issue of finding the objective winner, you know?
Yeah, I had a couple of thoughts about that. One is my specific memory is shit. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear.
Mm,
But I have a terrible memory. And
okay.
so if you were to go um round 1, round 2, round 3, round 4, right? So like player 1, player 2, player 1, player 2.
Yeah.
Um they each have 2 runs. I can't, I cannot tell you what happened in the first run by the fourth run.
Right,
So
right, right, right. I can't either, by the way.
I, right. So I wouldn't be able to like very fairly say I know player one won because I left off on player two and I don't know what player one did.
True.
Uh, so if you score between every run,
Yeah.
then you know for sure that you're looking at one thing and one thing only, as
Yeah.
opposed to trying to keep 4 runs in your head the whole time. The other thing that I like about this system is that it creates accountability for the judges. I
Mm,
have heard that judges don't pay attention. I
yeah.
have heard them play on their phone. I have heard them say out loud, I don't know what happened in the first 6 runs because I was drunk. Like I have
Yeah.
seen drunk judges.
Shut up,
Like
Rolf. Yeah.
that makes me so angry. I'm so angry for the players. Like
Yeah.
I want to create accountability for the judges. So one of the things that I want to do up front is pay the judges. I don't
Yeah.
want them to volunteer their time. I want them to get paid because it is a job that they have to take seriously.
Yeah.
Like
Oh
people
yeah.
are paying money to come up here and do this in front of you and it's an honor. Like
Yeah.
sit here and do this. And like in order to make it easier on the judges, I don't want to make you sit there for 8 hours. Right?
Right.
Like I'm not
Right.
going to make you sit there for 8 hours to watch 100 people.
Yeah.
And if I'm only making you sit there for 2 hours, you can't be on your phone the whole time.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, for sure.
so I I'm that person in that
Yeah.
situation. So this makes sure that the judges are accountable to the thing that they're actually doing, right? They
Yeah.
have to give me a score. They can't just write down a player like midway through, say they won, and then stop paying attention. Like
Right.
if every run needs a score, you have to watch every run. Um, and so that is part of the reason why I'm doing this is because I want I and then if somebody were to say, "Well, hey judge, why did I score poorly on technical skill?" The judge then says, "Here is the number I gave you and why." Right?
Yeah.
Like as opposed to like, "Oh, I don't remember what happened in that run, but I think you did this."
Yeah, but wouldn't the
Um
memory problem still be the same with this system compared to
n-
the other system?
um no. Well, this one, so how the judges would submit their points is electronically via Google form. So after
Oh,
every run, every judge submits their scores. After the run, it goes to a spreadsheet, and then it's calculated. So we know the totals after every run, no matter what.
yeah,
So it's not like we're gonna wait until the last. We're not gonna wait until both players go
yeah,
to reveal the scores. It's after every run the scores get submitted.
yeah. Okay. So if there are two rounds, I don't know if that's what you're going to be doing, but wait, for your format, are you going to be doing 1v1s at the end? I forgot.
We're thinking about it. I'm leaning towards maybe, but I
Okay.
don't know yet.
So
Um,
if not, then it would just be that final. Oh, okay. So for that top six, top eight after the in-person qualifiers, it would basically be do your final run and then we score you.
it will be, yeah, you get 2 runs. Each run would be scored. And then
Mm,
whoever, if it's battle, it's whoever has the highest score
yeah. And if it's not, then it's
after two
the out of
runs.
the top eight, it would be whoever has the highest score out of the full eight. And then you'd be, oh,
Yes.
interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. Um, yeah, I wonder, I think I'd be really interested to like how that would play out in on contest, you know? It
Mm-hmm.
reminds me of KWC a little bit where KWC is like, yeah, 40 players go, and then you kind of have an idea of what people hit, but that's just because nowadays there's that live screen where there's judges who are
Mm-hmm.
counting up the points. But then again, there might be, a trick that they did on that they skipped, or a trick that they did it wrong. So there's always a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of variability. But for freestyle, I wonder what that would look like. I wonder how that would feel as a audience member. You know?
Yeah. Um, do you have thoughts or hesitations?
No, I don't think so. And I know when people usually
Okay.
say, "Oh, that's really interesting," that just means that's usually condescending. But I actually don't mean that. you know? Um,
Yeah. No, that's really helpful. I think that the point system, just overall, even if we were to do a battle, right? Like I think having the points feels important. Um, even if how we divvy up the points in the end changes totally. Having
yeah,
something objective to count,
right.
like saying you have so many points over me and
Yeah,
it makes sense, is so relieving to my brain, as opposed to I lost and I don't know why.
yeah,
Like
for
like
sure.
that hurts, the idea of like I don't know why I did so bad, or why did I lose to that person, what can I do, right? Like
Yeah,
my brain wants to go, what can I do, or what did I do?
yeah,
And I want to be able to give that experience to people.
right,
Like
right,
we've
right.
already done the flag thing, like we've already done it and we know it
Yeah,
works
yeah,
ish.
yeah,
So like this would just be something new to try,
yeah,
and if it like expands into something different, then that's totally cool.
yeah,
um like I guess what I'm saying is I'm not married to this specific idea, but I
yeah,
am very committed to structure.
yeah, for
Like
sure. Yeah,
the structure needs to exist. I don't really care what that looks like.
yeah, definitely. And just to like kind of put down my position, like I think that for qualifying rounds, so not 1v1, but just, qualifying rounds, like everyone submit, or maybe a final round, but the format where it's not a battle, but it's, um, 8 players runs, and then you pick the winner out of those 8 players and they don't battle. Like,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of improvement, this goes like I would rate this a 5. Like this exceeds expectations, right? Like we could like there's a lot of issues with the flag system, and one of them is visibility, and there's issues with how EKC qualifying works, and the main issue is visibility. And like if they
Mm-hmm.
can just do like one step of improvement, that would be awesome. But I feel like with this scoring system and this point system, this is like 5 steps of improvement. So I love it in terms of like the qualifying for battle. This is probably better
Hmm.
than but I think with battle it would be hard to I think it's just and again it's not an issue with necessarily this format, it's just more of an issue of like what the standard is in general for all sports judgment competitions of like how do I give this range to a certain player and then
Hmm.
this range to the other player when they're battling, but then I kind of like know in my heart who the winner is, but the numbers might not line up. You know what I mean? Like what?
Right.
And maybe that doesn't even exist. Maybe it will just work, and maybe judges will just maybe it will just work. But I guess we have to judge based off of the hard ones, the hard decisions. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um, when you said, in my heart, I know who won,
yeah,
that's actually the thing I want to get rid of.
yeah, yeah,
Like, I know your heart says something and it's
yeah,
totally valid.
yeah.
And I want to take that out
You're right,
as
right,
much
right,
as
right,
we
right.
can.
Yeah,
Um, because because if we want to legitimize kendama as a sport,
yeah,
it can't be that subjective.
yeah. No, of course. Yeah, for sure.
Um, but given that, one of the things that I did talk a little bit to some people about is, what if there was an audience vote?
Yeah.
Like, what if instead of having an engage no, no, I talked to Caleb and Caleb was like, nobody else in any other sport lets the audience vote on who wins. And I'm like, but they do it on American Idol, and that's not the same. That's not
I
the
really,
same.
I
You're
really
not.
like the audience vote. I think I put it on my story at one point, and then I think it was one of the 365 guys. So I think they're all kind of gathered together and are conspiracizing against the audience vote. But yeah, it's a really good argument to say that it doesn't exist in any other sports. But I think with the audience vote, why I want it to um, be not necessarily implemented, but maybe considered. It's just because, like what you the very one of the very first things that you said was that if we want to make Kendama more entertaining and bigger to an audience, we can't have the winners be these technical players who aren't entertaining to watch, but they just score the right points with the judges. You know, I'm
Yeah.
sure there's a million different sports who do it that way, and then maybe they lose popularity, or maybe there's just a lot of hidden silent complaints because it's just
Yeah.
not fun to watch, you know?
Yeah. We thought about, I want to create an app. So like the scoring sheet right now is a Google form because it's easiest and
Yeah,
cheapest.
yeah.
But I would really love to create a judging app
Mm,
that judges can download and use as their scoring sheet.
mm.
But in that app, I also would love to have an audience participation one. So
Yeah,
like an audience member can also go to this app as a participant and be like, I vote for so and so
yeah,
as my audience favorite,
right.
like, and they win a separate prize, like they're the crowd pleaser favorite or whatever,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's a separate prize than the actual like podium.
yeah,
But I think that's important, like the
yeah,
people who watch really love cheering for folks.
yeah. Definitely.
um
And we should I actually have this on my to-do list for Condominomics to make that because that was an idea that I had for a while and I want to see it in action. So we should if you're down for it, we should talk about maybe just getting it in Condominomics. That'd be really cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that would be great
Yeah.
because you already have a thing built. I'm
Yeah.
not.
Yeah,
It would
exactly.
save me a lot of time.
Yeah, yeah. Doing with like Apple and accepting, it's
Yeah.
so crazy. Yeah. But yeah, so that'd be really cool. But it would also be so cool to go back to old freestyle competitions and then pull up the judges' scorecard and
Hmm.
be able to see who the audience voted for and what the judges scored and why. And maybe you can do that on the app too. That'd be super, super
Yeah.
cool.
Oh, would be so cool. Then you could see
Yeah,
like an aggregate of like
yeah,
everybody's scorecards.
yeah,
Um, I love that. I
yeah,
love transparency. It's
yeah,
like so nice to not have to keep secrets from people. I'm really
yeah,
bad at it.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think
I'm
we
really
should.
bad. I'm like, okay, I don't remember anymore.
You're really bad at something.
Remembering things. I'm really
Totally,
bad
yeah.
at remembering things.
No, but I think we should probably wrap up. But and just to kind of reiterate what I said earlier, I think like what you're doing is so above and beyond what, yeah, what Kendama not deserves, but because they do deserve it, but also just, yeah, I just think it's really great, and it's gonna really improve freestyle competition and hopefully improve, which I can imagine it can just improve, Kendama overall as a sport. And I'm really interested to see. I don't know if I can make it out to the Hawaii event. I would love to, but yeah, I have a baby now, so I can only kind of pick and choose my events to go to. But maybe that
Yeah.
can be an excuse to go on a vacation, right? Yeah,
Um, we have group I paid for the group rates at the hotel already. So we have the hotel rates like locked in, and there's no minimum or maximum night stay. So you
okay.
could stay for the comp or you could stay longer and you still
Wow.
get the same group rate.
Oh, that's really cool.
So yeah, so as long as you book with the link or whatever it is, I don't know yet.
Yeah,
Um, you can really turn it into a vacation. So you can stay for the event and then stay longer.
yeah,
I'm gonna try to get some discounts on activities. So
yeah.
if you wanted to do like simple surf lessons
Snorkeling
or
or
swim
surf.
lessons or
Yeah,
snorkeling,
yeah,
we also have stargazing. Like we
yeah.
have observatories and stargazing and stuff like
That's
that,
so cool.
volcanoes.
Yeah,
So there's gonna be like a bunch of stuff hopefully that families can do, and the event itself is taking place at a like bowling alley arcade complex.
yeah.
So it's not just like a warehouse. So
Okay,
there's
awesome.
there's like kid friendly things to do. There's
Yeah,
like partner friendly things to do. It's
awesome.
in the middle of a shopping center, so you don't
Okay,
have to you're not like isolated in the
yeah,
middle of nowhere and stuck at like a warehouse. So it's got stuff around it so that like I really want people to bring their families and
yeah,
like be so I want to have performances, so we'll have like local performers in between matches, so we'll have
yeah,
music and dancing.
yeah.
I also want
That's
to
so
do
cool.
like a live painting. So I'm trying to get Ghost Town out and we'll do like a live painting
Uh,
session during the team competition.
yeah,
So there will be like a lot of things going on, hopefully,
yeah,
if I can figure it out.
yeah.
Um
Awesome.
so yeah, just if you can make it, that's my
Yeah,
goal.
for sure. Yeah, it sounds like incredible. And yeah, I want to give you just major props for not only throwing the event, but also like the work that you're doing for this, because it's really, really valuable and big. And it's hard to do anything new to change anything, because people are stuck in, the what they're used to. It's just maybe just human
Mhm.
behavior. It's nothing like super evil. It's just what everyone's
Yeah.
used to. But yeah, I mean, I did the app, and that's really new. So I know that there's, people who it's just easy to it's really easy to criticize and say what should be better, even if it's from a helpful perspective. But I think people like you who are trying to update and improve and make things better just should be rooted for and really propped up, because that's what needs to happen for Kendama to go where we want it, you know?
Oh, I really appreciate that because
Yeah, of
I
course.
do. I do feel a lot of the resistance,
Yeah.
and I am bullheaded enough to be like, but I think I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
So I do have this persistence, but it does
Yeah.
it the validation that you said really really helps me stay bullheaded.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And the community is like good enough in general where I think if there maybe there's a different community. I don't know. I've heard things about the yo-yo community that are just, yeah, really critical and stuff and super competitive, and not to call the yo-yoers out there, but um but yeah, I think that I think in general people are probably really positive about this.
Hmm.
But yeah, and it's awesome that you are like trying it with your own event first, and then you can see how that goes, and you can improve on it, and then it would be amazing to see this at EKC or Battle or Passion Flow. And I mean, I don't see why not. I don't like right now. I could change my mind in the future, but I definitely don't see why TO or any other person doing a big event and they're doing a qualifiers to maybe not adapt this specific system, but at least throw scores in there for qualifiers. At
Hmm.
least so players and audiences and judges know what they're looking for. They know what to
Hmm.
expect. They know what they're looking for. They know why somebody won or why somebody qualified versus not knowing. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that a version, it doesn't have to be this version, but like a version of something that's more transparent would be amazing.
Yeah,
And so like next steps will be like we'll test it and
yeah,
I'll pull you in if you want to
yeah.
be pulled
Of
in.
course, I love it. Yeah,
But we'll do next steps and test stuff and then keep iterating. I would also love to talk to you next time
yeah,
about funding,
yeah,
sponsorships,
yeah.
and like what does it look like to crowdfund an event? Or
Mm,
what does it look like to have a subscription based like Patreon thing for an
yeah,
event?
yeah.
Or for multiple events. Like, what if we
Right.
had a pool that people could pull money into so that events could run? Like, they could take out loans or they could take out micro
Yeah,
loans or micro whatever's out of this like pot to help
yeah,
like smaller events run easier. Stuff
yeah,
like that. Like, I have
yeah,
thoughts on how to fund more events
yeah, for sure.
because they're expensive and
Yeah.
hard to manage with a lot of labor.
Yeah, and I just recently have been seeing that more with getting players out to KWC or EKC. Like MJ had a fundraiser, Adrian going to KWC
Mm-hmm.
had a fundraiser. I think everything's been successful so far, so that's how blessed we are to have this community with how
Yeah.
positive everyone is. But I think that yeah, it's definitely a really good idea. It definitely people I feel like would really support that.
Yeah, I still have to work out what that might look like, but I would love to pick your brain about it another time.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Mm,
All right. Well, it's really good talking to you, Kelly. Thanks so much for your
yeah.
conversation. And yeah, we'll have to do one again soon.
Okay.
As definitely after your event to see how everything went, but hopefully before that.
Oh, we should do a follow-up before then to see how this
Yeah.
actually goes and then
Yeah.
see what it's
Yeah.
like afterwards too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. All right.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelly.
Bye.